At a stormy Thanksgiving dinner, my parents revealed they'd forged my signature for a $500,000 0 cents loan against my house to buy my brother's lakefront mansion. "It's what family does," Dad said smugly. I didn't argue. Just walked out, called my lawyer, and turned their gift into their worst nightmare. The rain was relentless, hammering the roof of my parents' split-level ranch in Charlotte, North Carolina, like it was trying to drown out the world. It was Thanksgiving 2024, and the air inside was thick with the smell of overcooked turkey and the kind of tension that only family can brew. I sat at the dining table, my jaw tight, watching my mom, Susan, fuss over my younger brother, Luke, like he was the second coming of Elon Musk. My dad, Robert, was at the head of the table, carving the bird with the precision of a man who'd spent 30 years slicing through bank paperwork. Luke's fiancée, Ava, sat next to him, her smile polite but strained, like she'd wandered into a play where she didn't know her lines. Me, I was James Carter, 35, cybersecurity consultant, the guy who'd clawed his way to a modest brick house in a Charlotte suburb, only to have it ripped out from under me in a way I never saw coming. It started with a slip of the tongue. Mom was refilling Luke's wine glass again when she beamed and said, "Oh, James, you'll be so proud. We finalized Luke's dream house. That gorgeous lakefront mansion with the dock and the Tesla charger. It's perfect for him and Ava." Her voice was syrupy, the kind of tone she used when she wanted everyone to clap like trained seals. I forced a smile, the one I'd perfected over years of playing the supportive big brother. Luke deserved nice things, sure. He was 29, charming, the kind of guy who could sell sand in a desert, but something about the way Dad cleared his throat, the way his eyes flicked to Mom, set off a low hum of unease in my gut. "James," Dad said, his voice gravelly like he was about to deliver a sermon, "you played a part in this too. We took out a loan against your house to cover the down payment. $500,000. It's what family does. Steps up." He said it so casually, like he was asking me to pass the mashed potatoes. My fork froze halfway to my mouth. The room tilted. $500,000. Against my house. The words hit like a sucker punch, stealing my breath. I looked at Luke, expecting shock, but he just stared at his plate, his jaw twitching. Ava's eyes widened, her glass trembling in her hand. Mom kept smiling, oblivious, like she'd just announced we were getting a puppy. "Excuse me?" My voice was low, barely a whisper, but it cut through the clatter of silverware. I leaned forward, my heart pounding like a war drum. "You did what?" Mom's smile faltered. "Oh, honey, don't make a fuss. It's just paperwork. You're doing so well with your fancy tech job. We knew you'd want to help Luke start his life right." Her tone was patronizing, the kind you'd use on a kid throwing a tantrum. Dad leaned back, folding his arms, his face a mask of paternal authority. "It's a done deal, James, signed and sealed. You're the stable one. You can handle it." I pushed my chair back, the screech of wood on hardwood slicing through the silence. My hands were shaking, not with fear, but with a rage I hadn't known I could feel. "You forged my signature?" Each word was a bullet, slow and deliberate. "You put my house, my life on the line without asking me?" The room went still. Even the rain seemed to pause, holding its breath. Luke finally looked up, his blue eyes, mirror images of mine, flickering with something like guilt, but not enough to speak. Ava's face was pale, her lips parted in horror. Mom gasped, clutching her pearls literally like some Southern belle in a bad movie. "James, don't you dare accuse us of something so ugly. We're your family." "Family?" I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound that made Ava flinch. "Family doesn't steal $500,000 and call it a favor." I stood, my chair tipping backward, crashing to the floor. The sound was like a gunshot, and in that moment I knew. This wasn't just a betrayal. It was a declaration of war. Let me back up. My name's James Carter, and I've spent my life building something solid in a world that felt like quicksand. Charlotte's my home, a city of glass skyscrapers and sprawling suburbs where everyone knows your business but pretends they don't. My house in Ballantyne with its white picket fence and creaky porch swing is my sanctuary. I bought it 5 years ago, every penny earned through late nights, debugging code, and early mornings teaching myself cybersecurity. No handouts, no shortcuts, just me proving I could stand on my own. My parents, Robert and Susan, live 10 miles away in a McMansion they can barely afford. All faux columns and manicured lawns. Dad's a retired loan officer, the kind of guy who could charm a snake into signing a bad mortgage. Mom's a former high school English teacher, now a queen of neighborhood gossip and PTA power plays. They're the picture of Southern respectability, but behind closed doors, they've always had one golden rule. Luke comes first. Luke, my baby brother, the charmer with a smile that could melt glaciers and a knack for skating through life on everyone else's dime. He's a real estate agent now, flipping houses and posting about his hustle on Instagram. Ava, his fiancée, is a sweet graphic designer who seems perpetually confused by our family's dysfunction. Me? I'm the reliable one, the guy who worked 2 jobs, barista by day, IT grunt by night to pay for my degree at UNC Charlotte. While Luke got a fully paid condo at 21, I was eating ramen in a roach-infested apartment. When I landed my cybersecurity gig, Mom didn't say, "Congrats, James." She said, "Oh, good, now you can help Luke with his car payments." My whole life, I've been their ATM, their safety net, their means to an end, and I let it slide, because that's what you do when you're the strong one. You swallow the hurt. You keep the peace. You tell yourself it's just family. But this was different. This wasn't borrowing a few grand or co-signing a lease. They'd forged my signature, mortgaged my home, and handed Luke a lakefront mansion like it was his birthright. My home, the one place I'd carved out for myself, free from their chaos, was now collateral in their game. And the worst part? They didn't even think they'd done anything wrong. I stormed out of the dining room, the rain soaking me as I reached my car. My phone buzzed in my pocket, but I ignored it. I needed air, space, anything to stop the walls from closing in. As I fumbled with my keys, I noticed something off. My tires. All 4 were slashed, the rubber sagging into the wet gravel. My stomach dropped. This wasn't random. Someone had been here, watching, waiting. I spun around, scanning the dark street, but the rain blurred everything. A chill ran down my spine, not from the cold, but from the realization that this was just the beginning. I felt as though a secret had... Back inside, I didn't sit. I stood in the doorway, water dripping onto Mom's precious Persian rug, and demanded answers. Who did this? I held up my phone, showing a photo of the tires. Who's trying to scare me off? Luke shifted in his seat, his face pale. Dude, calm down. It's probably just kids. Kids, I snapped, my voice rising. Kids who know exactly where I parked? Kids who timed it with this bombshell about a $500,000 loan? James, you're being paranoid, Mom said, her voice sharp now, like she was scolding a toddler. This is why we didn't tell you. You always overreact. Overreact? I stepped closer, my voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. You stole my future, Mom. You put my house, my life, on the chopping block, and now my car's trashed. You think that's a coincidence? Dad stood, his chair scraping the floor. Enough, James. You're blowing this out of proportion. We did what we had to for Luke. He's got a family to start, a legacy to build. You're single, stable. You'll bounce back. Bounce back? My voice cracked, the weight of 35 years crashing down. I've been bouncing back my whole life, Dad. From you telling me college was too expensive while you paid for Luke's vacations, from you buying him a condo while I slept on a mattress on the floor, and now this. You didn't just cross a line, you burned the damn bridge. Ava stood, her voice trembling but firm. I didn't know, James, I swear. Luke told me it was a gift from your parents. I thought... She turned to Luke, her eyes blazing. You knew about this, didn't you? Luke's silence was louder than any confession. He rubbed his neck, avoiding her gaze. It wasn't supposed to be a big deal, he mumbled. Dad said it'd be fine. Fine? Ava's voice rose, sharp enough to cut glass. You let them mortgage your brother's house? That's not fine, Luke. That's criminal. The word hung in the air, heavy, final. Mom gasped, clutching Dad's arm. Dad's face went red, his fists clenching. "Don't you dare throw around words like that in my house," he roared. "We're your family, James. You don't turn on family." I met his glare, unflinching. "You turned on me first." The next morning, I sat in my home office, the blinds drawn, my laptop glowing with the bank's website. My hands shook as I logged in, dreading what I'd find. There it was, a $500,000 0-cents home equity loan dated 3 weeks ago, with my signature scrawled at the bottom. It wasn't mine. The loops were too loose, the slant too cocky. Dad's handiwork, no doubt. He'd spent decades at First Citizens Bank, schmoozing clients, bending rules. He knew how to make fraud look legit. I called Allison, my best friend and colleague at the cybersecurity firm. She answered on the first ring, her voice all business. "James, you sound like hell. What's up?" I told her everything, my voice cracking as I described the loan, the tires, the way Mom's smile never wavered. Allison didn't interrupt, but when I finished, her response was ice cold. "That's not just shady, James. That's bank fraud. Federal offense. Your dad's banking buddies might have greased the wheels, but this is felony territory." "Fellini," I repeated, the word tasting like ash. "What do I do, Allison? This is my family." "Family doesn't do this," she said, her voice softening. "You need a lawyer. Yesterday. I know someone. Laura Bennett. She's a shark. She'll eat this case alive." I hung up, my head spinning. A lawyer. A federal crime. My parents. In handcuffs? The thought made my stomach churn. But then I remembered Dad's smug face, Mom's dismissive wave, Luke's cowardice. They'd made their choice. Now I had to make mine. That afternoon, my phone pinged with an email from an unknown address. No subject, just a single line. "Check your mortgage. They're not done yet." My blood ran cold. Who sent this? Someone at the bank? A neighbor? Or worse, someone closer? I forwarded it to Allison, who texted back immediately. "Get that lawyer now. This is bigger than you think." The tension didn't let up. That night, my home security system went haywire. The app on my phone lit up with alerts. Motion detected, cameras active. I opened the live feed expecting a raccoon or a stray dog. Instead, I saw my own living room, the camera panning slowly, like someone was controlling it. My heart stopped. I was being watched. I yanked the plug on the system, my hands trembling, and called Allison again. "Someone hacked my cameras," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "They're in my house." "Pack a bag," she said, "no nonsense. Stay at my place tonight. We're not taking chances." As I grabbed my keys, my phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. "Drop it or it gets worse." I stared at the screen, the words searing into my brain. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was personal. The next day, I met Laura Bennett. In her sleek downtown office, all glass and steel, a world away from my parents' tacky McMansion. Laura was in her 40s, sharp-eyed with a handshake that could crush walnuts. I laid out the story. The loan, the tires, the email, the hacked cameras. She listened, her face unreadable, taking notes with a pen that probably cost more than my monthly car payment. "This isn't a family spat," she said when I finished, her voice calm but deadly. "This is bank fraud, identity theft, and possibly stalking. Your father's banking connections make it premeditated. We're talking up to 7 years in prison per count, plus fines that'll bankrupt them. And if they're escalating with threats," she leaned forward, her eyes narrowing, "we hit back hard. I'm drafting a fraud report to the bank and a restraining order against your parents. You ready for the fallout?" I swallowed, my throat dry. "What kind of fallout?" "The kind that splits families, neighborhoods, maybe your whole social circle," she said bluntly. "Your mom's already spinning this on Nextdoor, painting you as the ungrateful son. Half your neighbors will side with her, thinking you're kicking your poor parents when they're down. The other half might see through the lies, but it'll get ugly. You sure you want to play hardball?" I thought of my house, my sanctuary, now a pawn in their game. I thought of the slashed tires, the hacked cameras, the anonymous threats. And I thought of every time I'd swallowed my pride, paid their bills, fixed their messes, all to keep the peace. The peace was gone. They'd torched it. Do it, I said, my voice steady. All of it. The fallout came faster than I expected. By the next morning, my phone was blowing up with notifications. Susan had posted on Nextdoor a tearjerker about how her selfish son was tearing our family apart over a simple loan misunderstanding. The comments were a war zone. Half the neighborhood called me a monster, saying things like, "How could you do this to your own parents?" and "Blood is thicker than water, James." The other half, mostly younger families and a few old-timers who'd seen Mom's act before, rallied behind me, posting, "This is fraud, plain and simple, and stand your ground, James." It was Charlotte's own civil war, fought in likes and emojis. Then came the real blow. I got home from work to find Traitor spray painted in red across my garage door. The paint was still wet, dripping like blood. Neighbors gawked from their lawns, whispering. I called Laura, who told me to file a police report and install new cameras, ones I'd secure myself. As I scrubbed the paint off, my phone buzzed with another text. "You're making enemies, James. Stop now." I froze, the sponge dripping in my hand. Enemies. Plural. Was this just Dad's doing, or was someone else involved? Luke? A bank insider? The anonymous emailer? My mind raced, piecing together fragments. Dad's burner phone, the one I'd seen him hide in his study last Christmas, buzzing with texts he wouldn't let me see. The consultant he'd met at a diner, whispering about fixing a problem. The safe in his basement locked tighter than Fort Knox. What was he hiding, and how deep did this go? The tension snapped 2 days later at a neighborhood barbecue, the kind of event Charlotte loves. Red Solo cups, country music, kids running wild. I didn't want to go, but Laura insisted. "Show them you're not hiding," she said. So I went, head high, ignoring the stares. Mom was there, holding court by the potato salad, her eyes red like she'd been crying for days. Dad stood beside her, his face a storm cloud. Luke and Ava were in the corner, arguing in hushed tones. The air was electric, like a fuse waiting for a spark. It came when Mom spotted me. She marched over, her voice loud enough to stop the music. "James Carter, how dare you drag our family through the mud," she cried, tears streaming down her face. "We gave you everything, and this is how you repay us? Threatening your own father with prison?" The crowd went silent, all eyes on me. I felt the weight of their judgment, half pitying Mom, half waiting for my response. My heart pounded, but I kept my voice steady. "You forged my signature, Mom. You stole $500,000. You put my home, my life, at risk. That's not love. That's theft." She gasped, clutching her chest like I'd stabbed her. "How can you say that? We were helping Luke. He's building a future, a family. You're just jealous, James. You always have been." The word hit like a slap. Jealous! It wasn't true, but it stung because she believed it. Dad stepped forward, his voice booming. "You're out of line, son. Drop this nonsense or you'll regret it." Regret it? I stepped closer, my voice low, dangerous. Like I regret trusting you? Like I regret every time I bailed you out, paid Luke's bills, fixed your messes? No, Dad. I'm done. I'm reporting this to the bank. And when the FBI comes knocking, you can explain why you thought fraud was family. The crowd gasped. Ava broke away from Luke, her face ashen. "James, I didn't know," she said, her voice shaking. "I thought it was a gift. Luke, how could you let this happen?" Luke's face crumpled, but before he could speak, a black SUV screeched to a stop at the edge of the lot. The window rolled down, and for a split second, I saw a figure in the driver's seat, face obscured. Then the car peeled out, tires screaming. My knees buckled. Whoever was in that SUV had been watching me, waiting. The slashed tires, the hacked cameras, the texts, it was all connected, and I was in deeper than I'd ever imagined. I drove home that night, my hands gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles were white. The rain was back, heavier now, blurring the streetlights into halos. My phone sat silent in the cup holder, but I could feel its weight, like it was waiting to deliver another blow. I pulled into my driveway, the Traitor paint gone, but the memory still raw. As I stepped out, my foot crunched on something in the dark. A note, folded and taped to my mailbox. I opened it under the porch light, my heart in my throat. "You can't win, James. Walk away or you'll lose everything." I stood there, the paper trembling in my hand, the rain soaking through my jacket. My house, my sanctuary, felt like a trap now, every shadow hiding a threat. I thought of Mom's tears, Dad's threats, Luke's silence. I thought of the anonymous email, the burner phone, the safe. And I thought of the man I'd spent my life trying to be, strong, reliable, the one who always fixed things. That man was gone, replaced by someone new, someone who wouldn't back down no matter the cost. I crumpled the note and walked inside, locking the door behind me. Tomorrow I'd call Laura. Tomorrow I'd fight. But tonight, I let the rage and fear wash over me, a storm as fierce as the one outside. They'd taken my home, my trust, my peace. But they wouldn't take me, not without a fight. What was in that safe? Who was driving that SUV? And how far would they go to keep their secrets buried? I didn't know yet, but I was going to find out. The note was still crumpled in my fist when I woke up. Its words burned into my brain. "You can't win, James. Walk away or you'll lose everything." It was 6 a.m., the Charlotte sky still bruised from last night's storm, and my house felt less like a home and more like a battlefield. I sat on the edge of my bed, the hardwood cold under my feet, and stared at the security panel on my wall. The cameras were offline, unplugged after the hack, but the violation lingered, a ghost in every corner. Someone had been watching me, maybe still was. My parents? Luke? Or someone else? Someone tied to that burner phone in Dad's study, to the locked safe in his basement? I didn't know yet, but the questions were claws, digging deeper with every heartbeat. I brewed coffee, the machines gurgled, the only sound in my too-quiet kitchen. My phone sat on the counter, its screen dark but heavy with the weight of unanswered texts and voicemails. Mom's tearful pleas, Dad's clipped threats, the anonymous warning from last night. They were all there, waiting to drag me back into the chaos. But I wasn't the same James who'd sat through that Thanksgiving dinner, swallowing betrayal like it was just another helping of dry turkey. That James was gone. The man staring into his black coffee was ready to fight, even if it meant burning every bridge I'd ever crossed. The day started with a call from Laura Bennett, my lawyer, her voice as sharp as the heels clicking in her downtown office. "James, the bank's fraud department is moving fast," she said. "They've frozen the $500,000 0-cents loan and flagged your father as the primary suspect. They're pulling records, and with his banking history, it's not looking good. We need to file the restraining order today against Robert, Susan, and Luke. You still in?" I gripped the phone, my knuckles white. A restraining order? Against my own family. The thought made my chest ache. But then I remembered Dad's voicemail from yesterday, his voice low and venomous. "Drop this, or you'll lose more than your house." It wasn't just a threat, it was a promise. "Do it," I said, my voice steady. "And Laura, I got another message last night, a note left on my mailbox. It said I can't win." Silence on her end, then a sharp intake of breath. "Photograph it, bag it, and get it to me. This is escalation, James. We're not just talking fraud anymore. This is harassment, maybe worse. I'm calling a contact at the Charlotte Mecklenburg PD. You need to watch your back." Watch my back. Easy to say, harder to do when the enemy was my own blood. I sent Laura the photo of the note, my hands shaking as I zipped it into a plastic bag. Then I checked my email, hoping for a distraction, only to find a new message from my boss, Karen. The subject line was blank, but the words inside hit like a freight train. "We need to discuss your family situation. It's affecting client trust." Meeting at 2 p.m. My stomach dropped. My job, my lifeline, the one thing I'd built without their help, was now at risk. The family drama was bleeding into everything, and I hadn't even thrown the first punch. The office was a glass cage, all sleek desks and fake plants. But today it felt like a courtroom. Karen sat across from me, her face a mask of corporate neutrality. "James, you're one of our best," she said, folding her hands. "But clients are talking. They've seen the next door posts, the spray paint on your garage. They're worried about stability. If this situation escalates, we may need to reconsider your contract renewals. I stared at her, my throat tight. Karen, my parents committed fraud. They forged my signature, put my house on the line. I'm the victim here. She sighed, her eyes softening, but not enough. I get it, James. But perception is reality. Clients don't care about the details, they care about risk. Fix this, or we'll have to make tough calls. I left the meeting with my head spinning, the weight of her words crushing. My job, my home, my peace. Everything I'd built was slipping through my fingers, and all because I dared to say no. As I drove home, my phone buzzed with another voicemail. I played it, expecting Mom's tears or Dad's rage, but it was Luke, his voice raw, desperate. James, please, man, you gotta stop this. Ava's dad is pulling his support from my business. I'm losing everything. Just call it off. I'll figure out a way to pay you back, I swear. I deleted the message, my jaw clenched. Luke's promises were as empty as his bank account. He'd known about the loan. Maybe not the details, but enough to stay quiet while Mom and Dad gambled with my life. He wasn't a victim. He was complicit. But his plea stuck with me, a splinter under my skin. What if he was telling the truth? What if Ava's dad, Victor Hayes, the real estate tycoon, could change the game? That night, Allison came over, her arms loaded with takeout from Amélie's French bakery. She was my rock, the one person who saw through the Carter family circus without blinking. We sat on my couch, the TV muted, as I filled her in on the note, the job threat, Luke's voicemail. Her eyes narrowed, her fork stabbing a croissant with more force than necessary. James, this is a coordinated attack, she said. The tires, the cameras, the note. It's not random. Your dad's got connections, and he's not above playing dirty. That burner phone you saw? I'd bet my 400 it's tied to this. I nodded, my mind racing. There's more. Dad's got a safe in the basement, locked up tighter than a bank vault. I saw it last year when I was helping Mom move Christmas decorations. He freaked when I got too close, like I'd caught him hiding bodies. Allison leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper. You think it's evidence? Loan documents? Something worse? I don't know, I admitted, my voice barely audible. But it's something he doesn't want me to see. And then there's that consultant he met at the diner last month. I overheard him on the phone talking about fixing a problem. What if that problem is me? She set her plate down, her face grim. You need to get into that safe, James, and you need to be careful. If they're willing to forge a loan, they're willing to do worse. The next morning, my email was hacked. I woke to a flood of notifications, clients CC'd on messages I didn't send, sensitive data leaked to unknown recipients. My heart sank as I traced the breach. It wasn't a random attack. It was targeted, precise. The kind of job I'd seen in corporate espionage cases. Someone with skill had gotten into my system, and the timing was too perfect. I spent hours locking down my accounts, but the damage was done. Clients were furious, Karen was livid, and my career hung by a thread. As I worked, another text came through. You were warned. Keep going and it's over. I called Laura, my voice shaking with rage. They're coming for my job now. My email's been hacked. Client data's out there. This is beyond fraud. It's sabotage. She didn't miss a beat. File a cybercrime report with the police. I'm adding this to the case. If your father's behind it, he's digging his own grave. Stay sharp, James. They're desperate. Desperate. That word echoed as I drove to meet Victor Hayes, Ava's father, at his sprawling office in uptown Charlotte. Victor was a legend, a self-made real estate magnate who turned a single fixer-upper into a multi-billion-dollar empire. He was also a man of principle, and Luke's lies had put him in a bind. Ava had called me the night before, her voice trembling. My dad wants to meet you, James. He needs to know who you are, what kind of man his daughter's marrying into. Please, don't let this destroy us. Victor's office was all mahogany and leather, a power move in every detail. He stood behind his desk, tall and lean, his suit sharper than a razor. James, he said, his voice smooth but probing. I don't trust easily. My daughter's future is on the line. and your family's actions have raised concerns. Tell me your side. I laid it out, every detail. The forged loan, the slashed tires, the hacked cameras, the email breach. I didn't sugarcoat it, didn't beg for sympathy, I just gave him the truth, raw and unfiltered. His face was unreadable, but his eyes never left mine. When I finished, he leaned back, steepling his fingers. "That's a hell of a story," he said. "And if it's true, your father's looking at serious time, bank fraud, wire fraud, 20 years, $500,000 in fines, per count. You ready to send your own family to prison?" The question hit like a hammer. I swallowed, my throat dry. "I'm ready to protect what's mine. They made their choice, I'm making mine." He nodded, a flicker of respect in his eyes. "I'm hosting a 4th of July block party tomorrow. Neutral ground. Be there. I want to see how your family handles this in public. And James?" He leaned forward, his voice low. "I'm watching." The 4th of July block party was Charlotte at its finest. Flags waving, grills smoking, kids chasing sparklers. But beneath the red, white, and Unir, it was a powder keg. The neighborhood was split, thanks to Mom's next-door campaign. Half the street saw me as a traitor, the other half as a hero. I walked in alone, my stomach in knots, feeling every stare like a dart. Mom was by the dessert table, her face a mask of tragic nobility. Dad stood nearby, his arms crossed, his eyes burning holes through me. Luke and Ava were off to the side, her hand on his arm, his face pale. The air crackled, waiting for a spark. It didn't take long. Mom spotted me and made a beeline, her voice loud enough to stop the band. "James Carter, you ungrateful child," she cried, tears streaming down her face. "We gave you everything, and now you're dragging us through the dirt, threatening your own father with jail over a little loan." The crowd froze, phones out, recording every word. I felt the weight of their judgment, but I didn't flinch. "A little loan," I said, my voice steady but loud. "You forged my signature, Mom. You stole $500,000. You put my house, my job, my life on the line. That's not a loan. That's a crime." She gasped, clutching Dad's arm. "How dare you? We are helping Luke. He's building a future, something you'll never understand. Living alone in that empty house?" The jab stung, but I didn't break. "Empty or not, it's mine, and you had no right to touch it." Dad stepped forward, his voice a low growl. "You're crossing a line, son. Drop this, or you'll wish you had." Before I could respond, Victor Hayes appeared, his presence commanding the crowd's attention. He didn't raise his voice, but every word cut like a blade. "Robert," he said, his tone almost casual, "you were a loan officer for 30 years, correct?" Dad blinked, thrown off. "Yeah, 32 actually." Victor nodded, his eyes cold. "So you'd know the penalties for bank fraud. Title 18, Section 1344. Up to 20 years in prison, $500,000, 0 cents in fines per count. You'd also know that forging a secured loan document is a federal offense, one the FBI takes seriously. Care to explain why you thought this was just helping your son?" The crowd gasped, phone swiveling to Dad. His face went white, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. Mom's tears dried up, replaced by raw panic. Luke stared at the ground, his hands shaking. Ava looked at Victor, her eyes wide, then at me, like she was seeing me for the first time. Victor turned to me, pulling a business card from his pocket. "James, when this is over, call me. I'm building a tech-driven real estate platform, and I need a VP of cybersecurity. A man who stands up to this kind of betrayal is a man I can trust." He pressed the card into my hand, his grip firm, then turned to the crowd. "I think we're done here." The party dissolved into whispers, neighbors turning on Mom and Dad, their lies crumbling under Victor's words. But as I slipped the card into my pocket, I felt a new weight. Protesters were gathering outside my house, some with signs supporting me, "Justice for James." Others hurling insults, calling me a family wrecker. The divide was growing, and I was caught in the crossfire.